Hello, welcome to chapter 4, and going to start sharing your screen with chapter 4 PowerPoints. So we're going to go over intercultural communication as it refers to relationships, culture, and conflict. And isn't that the big one? So what are we going to learn? We're going to learn what intrapersonal communication is, and intra means within. So we do have communication within ourselves. Define and discuss what self-concept is. And again, this chapter may take a little bit of time to read because there are so many different self words: self-conflict, self-esteem, self-fulfilling prophecy, and we want you to get to understand the differences. Discuss cultural identities, and we'll get into examples of that. Understand the role of interpersonal needs in the intercultural communication. So interpersonal is communication with one other person. So we are going to understand what interpersonal relationships mean, not just romantic. Discuss social penetration theory and self-disclosure and its principles. So self-disclosure is how much information do I want to reveal at one time, and discuss or describe interpersonal, again, relationships. So 4 and 6 will tie together. And there are 5 steps in having a conversation. And I know from teaching, many students find it difficult to start conversations. Discuss cultural differences in conversations, and there are, especially with many of you having limited boundaries in your social media, you find it easy to talk about everything. Okay, and then we're going to talk about evaluation and things. So intrapersonal communication can be defined as communication within oneself. So it's that self-talk. So you wake up in the morning, do I want to go to school? Do I want to go to sleep? So it's all this communication within ourselves. It goes a little bit deeper than that little example, but communication within ourselves are all the different selves we have. We have the student self, we have maybe a sibling self, we have maybe a parent-child self. Okay, so there are so many different selves. You can have a monetary self, a religious self, and it just keeps going. So what happens with self-concept is we engage in social comparisons, evaluating others in relation to our peers of similar status, similar characteristics and qualities. So this is how we learn more about our intrapersonal, more of an observant, observer, observing your behavior, observing how other people treat you. And these are the social comparisons that we make. And then we reflect on it, which is called self-reflection, is a trait that allows us to adapt and change to our context or environment to accept or reject messages. So we reflect on, topics that maybe I'm too passionate about, and I'm overly passionate, and maybe I get angry about it. Maybe I get overstimulated by it. So the next time that topic comes out, you know that you do maybe get over passionate about it. So this is going to teach you. So you self-reflect and you see, what can I do differently that I'm going to get the end result that I want. Internal monologue refers to that self-talk that we have. Okay. And when it says dynamic and changing, nothing is constant. Everything's always changing. That's science. So Loft and Ingram's dimensions of self. So we have what we show others, known to me and known to others. So you like French fries, and then if you're eating French fries, other people know that you like French fries. Known to others, but not to me. So there's that observer, observing how people may not think that joke was funny. So maybe they did take insult to it. So you think it's funny. No, not known to me or to others. So there's an area we're always investigating. And not known to me, but not to known to me, but not to others. So I may know that I dislike something, but I may not come out and say, "Oh, I despise this food," because that's not kind. So those were simple examples of this, but definitely take a good look at it because I will be asking questions about that exam on the exam. So again, this talks about the quadrants and what they were saying. So in this squares, we also want to include our cultural identities, which are gender identities, and it explains the definition of gender and not to confuse it with biological sex. Self-identity refers to the ideal person and the associated characteristics with that specific culture. So when you self-identify as being female or male or trans, you want to self-identify. You don't want people to judge you on the look, whether it's your skin color and then class identity refers to the association of a person with a particular social class and cultural expectations that come with it. So sometimes because of the artifacts you wear or jewelry or clothing, you may spark someone to put you as a stereotype in a class identity and then expect you to act like that. Age identity refers to the cultural expectations for that person on how they should act. 65-year-old should act X, Y, and Z. Racial and ethnic identity refers to the cultural association of racial or ethnic characteristics within that identity. So again, we don't want stereotyping, and when we look at this, we're educating ourselves on how we putting it under the microscope, how I possibly can be doing this. Okay. Also, cultural identities, physical ability identity involves cultural associations with our bodies and may overlap with other identities. So some cultures may have a different expression of nudity or clothing. And so this is also identified as the differences between cultures. Psychological identity involves cultural associations with our minds, our actions, and our behaviors. So again, when you are in a particular area, we think differently, we see things differently, and everybody is not the same. And we want to know that. Sexual identity, again, when we're talking about gender and biological, so this is opposite or different than the gender. Spirituality or spiritual identity. So some religions do have a norm of spiritualness in them, and it can run into religious practices of that spirituality. And national identity refers to the cultural expectations associated with citizenship. Okay. So, and again, everyone's nationality, again, you're dealing with intercultural, international, you may come across differences in national identity. So Maslow from either high school or your Psych 101 class talks about two specific areas here where you're building yourself. One is self-actualization. So level 5 represents, and here, you know what? Let me go. So here's his levels. So your screen here talks about level 5. So level 5 is toward the top, which is recognition from ourselves and others that we can make a difference. So based on everything we learned here, when you look in the mirror, what is your self-actualization? Okay, and it's a hierarchy, so it's not quite at the top, but it's in the middle. Level 6, we work to fulfill our basic need. We can take beauty for its own and for its own sake and value aesthetics. Okay, so here, 5 and 6, you're interpreting things more individually, yourself. And as you go through these, you're going to see, the explanations of the other levels as well. So here is another important researcher. According to William Schultz, not Schultz, it's Schutz. We need affection. So We need to have appreciation of ourselves as individuals within a community. That's why you go to community college, right? And across all, and that's why we call it cross-cultural, across all cultures. So what are underpersonals? Are people who seek limited interaction. Now, again, we're not saying anything is bad or good. We're saying that this is what is part of culture, and this is what you need to recognize, and you're not here to change, but you are here to understand. And if you're working with them, you need to be flexible and understand all cultures in order to be an effective communicator. So overpersonals are people who have a strong need to be liked and constantly seek attention with others. And as I'm talking, I'm sure you're thinking of my friend this and my friend that, and which is good because this teaches you the definitions with examples. A personal individual strikes a healthy balance between attention seeking and avoidance behavior. So you do, again, you're not just one of these all of the time. You want a balance. So when you're in control, these are the three terms that we want you to investigate the difference of, and they're all regarding yourself. Again, we're talking about how you interact with other people. All right, so definitely keep your eye on those. I just want to go over another slide. Under socials, may be less likely to seek interaction, may prefer smaller groups, and will generally not be found on center stage. So you probably are thinking of the word introvert, and again, not a bad thing. And we're just actually, introverts are more observers, they're more listeners. We're not finding anything negative. We need time to regroup as under socials, rather than always being in the spotlight, always needing some attention to spark our self. Okay, and again, you want a balance. So I'm going to end part 1 here, and then we'll continue with part 2.